Well, it's February, and the card companies and the chocolate companies have decided that means it's the month of love. And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is Why Do We Tell Love Stories? Part 1. So why do we tell love stories? To give everyone unrealistic expectations and make those lonely people like me feel bad. That's pretty much it. That was quick. Night, guys. Thanks for watching the heart of the stories we tell. Okay, fine. There's a little more to it than that. Alright, so, like fantasy or sci-fi, romance has a lot of subgenres. The rom-com, the sappy love story, the unrequited love. Those are the ones that jump to mind, at least. However, with any real thought, you could probably name about 30, 40 different subgenres. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to name a few stories without romance in them. Romance subplots are the mainstay in almost every story. And there's a good reason for it. It's something that you can relate to, in theory. It's supposed to make the characters more relatable. Sometimes it even works. Other times, not so much. So we're going to start this episode off by talking about subplots. And so we're going to have to take a look at some stories that deal with it in the secondary. Not ready to talk about Joker and Harley. So you know what? Let's talk Big Bang Theory. I've heard it referred to as nerd blackface. I've heard it somewhere in the middle. I've mostly heard, though, that it's pretty funny. I will say that I laugh at most of the jokes, but the thing that I always find the most unrealistic is the four socially unacceptable nerds all get the girls doesn't quite line up with me. At least not with my personal experience, especially not a model actress. But before we cast stones too much at that show, I'd like to remind you that Peter Parker, science nerd, has a long history of lovers, including that time he was married to a model/actress. So like any fantasy story I like, realism goes right out the window pretty quickly. Even realistic dramas bend the laws of probability. Buried deep in those fantasy stories I love so much is a clue to how the love story works, though. Like an action-adventure, the movie casts someone who starts off as the everyman and walks him or her through a crazy situation and back out again. Well, why can't the romantic lead have that same thing going? That same unnormal luck? That same weird skill? At the end of the day, the protagonist is still the main character. For our purposes today, I'm going to be looking at the romantic entanglement of people who are protagonists, but whose story isn't a love story, at least not directly. So, with that, I'm going to talk about Captain America. The MCU is full of good and bad examples of significant others. Captain America just happens to be the one that I can use the easiest across movies. Why is that? Well, because his 3 movies fill the whole gambit. Good love story, no love story, bad love story. Now, all of those are subplots, but let's be honest here. In Winter Soldier, they went out of their way to not have one. Black Widow was obviously just the friend. In fact, she was the friend that was trying to set Steve up with other girls. Steve had no part of it because he was still pining for the good love story that was the first one, Peggy Carter. And then the third one, they kind of just tacked on for no apparent reason a kiss that was totally not earned. And you know what, I'm not going to try to complain about Civil War. So the good first, the first Avenger. When you look at it, what makes it different? What makes it stand out? Well, the love story felt earned. Right from the beginning, we have Steve Rogers having no luck with the women. Then he meets a beautiful woman. And of course, thinks he's going to stand no chance. But she kind of likes him. Why? Because in that weird way, he's kind of adorkable. The fact that he ends up being extremely hot just, is a bonus for her. Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers have this whole flirtation thing based entirely on a mental ability they have in common and a quick wit that they kind of par with each other, which is kind of funny because as you see in the comics, he does not have the innuendo down at all. On the other hand, Winter Soldier succeeded almost in spite of the fact that it had no love story. There was no reoccurring will they, won't they with Black Widow. In fact, the parts that Agent 13 actually shows up for don't even hint at the fact that they're going to have a relationship, not really. And it's a strong movie, maybe the best the MCU has so far. So that goes to show you don't need a love story to make someone relatable. You just need a good story. But again, there's shorthands we're missing here. And before I go too far, I want to ask you, do you think stories need a romance subplot? What about video games or novels, TV shows, movies? Is there a difference? Do they need them or don't they? Now, before we go too far into whether they need them or not, I want to take a quick stroll down the psychology way and talk about the Olympics. Bear with me, this is going to pan out. Like an action movie, the Olympics is a place full of energy and adrenaline, and you know what? The movie Speed said it best. They say that relationships based on high adrenaline moments don't last. Well, we better make it last by the sex then. Well, you know what? The Olympics are full of people that are running on high hormones, adrenaline, and because of that, one of the most common things for them to do is, well, you get the idea. So, Olympic Village is like sex capital of the world every 4 years. Why? Because that's what people do when they get into these sorts of exciting, huge moments in their lives. Now think of what every action movie ever is all about. So the question of why do we put subplots into all of our movies that are romances? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, and it's twofold. The subplot makes people more relatable because everyone can relate to the love story, whether it be love lost or love unattained. But it's also because at the end of the day, that's what happens. When things get rough and it's life or death, which a lot of these stories that we cover are, you end up getting horny. And as such, that's what hormones do. But now we've reached that part of the video where I'm going to ask you to like and share this, even if it was kind of a weird one, and subscribe to come back here next time as part of our community as we build out everything and talk about the second reason we tell love stories, the type that take up the whole story, the actual romance, next time as we walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Thanks for watching.